To my non-American listeners, happy week of no particular significance. To my American listeners, happy Thanksgiving. While you're preparing to cook the bird tomorrow, we'll be roasting the bird today. It's the Berdly episode. This episode contains some adult language and some discussion of mature topics. You can support Survey Program at groupashrike.net or the link in the description to get access to our monthly bonus episodes. Our latest talk about the current era of Doctor Who, what went wrong, and how it can be fixed is now available. Music for this episode is by Highwell. Mentally resetting. You would not believe what was happening right before I started recording, you guys. God damn it. Oh! It's Survey Program!
Center ourselves.
Yes.
Center ourselves.
Hi, it's Survey Program Podcast. I'm Kate. I'm here with Jackie.
Hi.
We have an emergency, so we had a bit of a late breaking scheduling shift this week with my honored and esteemed guests, who can do no wrong, and it's my job to accommodate them. So we had to break glass in case of an emergency and go for a sudden emergency episode topic today. One that we have been dancing around for many episodes, that I have tried to bring up multiple times, and I've been cruelly shot down by my guests. I mean, talking about the Bluebird guy.
Yeah. I wish I had another Bluebird guy on my mind to make a joke about.
There's that guy... There's that lady from Undertale Yellow, who's a Bluebird, which I'm going to be playing that for the first time soon, so look forward to that. I think I'm probably going to like that lady, because I like birds.
There's the blue canary in the outlet by the light switch.
Of course.
That's the only one I got.
Yeah. Isn't there there's Falco Lombardi, of course.
There's motherfucking Falco Lombardi.
There's motherfucking Falco Lombardi. Berdly wishes he was as cool as Falco Lombardi, and probably plays Falco, right? I mean, I feel like
plays Falco, is mad that Chris plays Fox, and Fox is the better character.
Also, to be clear, it seems like what we know, we're definitely like skipping way ahead, but it's clear that Berdly does not have tech skill, and so is really poorly served by playing Falco. Like, Berdly should be playing Peach, but is playing Falco, and is getting mad about it, and I think that's actually a great way to understand his character. Yes!
You can learn so much about a person from the way that they play a fighting game.
But before we talk more about the Bluebird guy, I do want to say I like to start the show by talking about any official news we've gotten this week from Undertale or Deltarune, and there is a Square Enix collab that's coming up. There's going to be some a collaboration with Square Enix music and merchandising. So there's going to be a album of new arrangements of Undertale and Deltarune songs, or I think just Undertale actually for this one, because it's an Undertale 10th anniversary, so there's going to be new arrangements of Undertale songs, and some mysterious merchandise that has yet to materialize. So let's just check off another list of major gaming figures that have some involvement with Undertale at this point.
Yeah. Critically, not a sans raid in FF14.
No, and I'm hoping, Undertale hasn't really done like a crossover, it's not like Dave the Diver where it's in everything.
Well, they did put Sans in Smash.
Right, exactly, except for the primo, the number one, the one that every single game developer wishes they could have, which is Smash.
Especially Toby being a Smash player.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. But, it would be funny, it's like, okay, but what if I wanted, Deltarune in Fortnite, or a Deltarune deck in Balatro, or whatever? Maybe Deltarune will be in Kingdom Hearts.
I mean, it's Square Enix now, right? We've got the in.
That's how we can officially get the Woody from Toy Story, crossover that people have long been predicting. This is our in.
Yeah. Woody will be there to tell Rouse he doesn't have a soul and doesn't matter.
Yeah. All right. So Smash Brothers. Speaking of Smash Brothers, so basically, the big summary of who Berdly is Berdly is a capital G gamer.
Gamer derogative.
Gamer derogatory, and this is something
derogatory. Thank you.
This is something that we've been. This is something that we've been sort of we've been talking. This is actually coming to be sort of a core theme of the podcast of like, what is Deltarune about? It's kind of about gaming. I mean, Undertale and Deltarune both are kind of about gaming and like the people who play games and what the way we play games says about us.
Yeah,
and what the way Berdly plays games says about him is that he's kind of an asshole.
He's kind of a scrub. Yes,
but also the fact of the matter is and I'm going to be affectionate. So, here's the thing. I'm going to be a little mean about Berdly this episode. And if you're a big Berdly fan, I want you to know that I am too.
I love him.
Yeah, I'm just giving him like an affectionate noogie, which is really what he needs, more than anything. But I think it's interesting. It's like Berdly's not an asocial gamer, right? He's not locked in his room playing video games alone. Berdly's a competitive gamer.
The ranked queue. He's going to play with Chris.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's hugely important. And one of the reasons why we're doing this episode, you and I, is because we both have some significant experience doing this, right? Though I am mostly retired at this point from competitive Smash, I did used to travel all around the country playing and commentating in Smash Brothers tournaments. I had the really great privilege of going to college with Hungrybox, who, if you're not familiar, is, in my view, the best Super Smash Bros. Melee player of all time. In anyone's view, is certainly, top 3, I would say.
Yeah. And I feel like at this point, it's hard to argue anyone other than him. Just like there was the top 3 argument, and then the accolades just kept building and building and building over time as more and more other players kind of dropped off.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, to have a guy who was 3rd at Genesis 1 and is still winning majors to this day is just like, that's a longevity of career. That's like, it's like LeBron-esque. It's so crazy to be that good for that long. Gaming Melee players do tend to stay better for longer than other types of, competitive esports players.
Fighting game players in general, I think. Despite the image that people have of fighting games, it's kind of an old man genre.
Mm-hmm. But it's still an extraordinary amount of longevity to be able to stick at the top level for that long when so many of the contemporaries from that very first wave of the Genesis era are retired or just, not, they all went and got real jobs or like...
Well, they're streamers now, and it's more about the content than the competition.
Exactly. And so, I have a lot of experience with that, and I know that, and one of the things about the developer, about Toby Fox is that Toby was also a regular, Melee player, and was
Falcon main, right?
Yeah, Captain Falcon main. And there's tons of references to Melee and tons of jokes about the Melee community in Deltarune. That are, super, it's a super fun lens to think about the game through. And it is interesting because I do think, we talk a lot about gaming ideology and some of the negative sides of how gamers think on this show, but you and I both have experienced through fighting games, I think, a really positive vision of the gaming community because it's a type of game that brings people together in person as a community, and I think it's so beautiful. Honestly, there's been so many times in my life where I've been in a fighting game tournament, I've been like, this is awesome. This is such a great mass cultural effervescence where you can talk about all the drawbacks and there's negatives, but it's so fun to come together because of a game that you love and have big crowds getting hype and have all these fun inside jokes and community lore with each other.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, especially in the offline setting, they're one of the most inherently social game types that exist.
Yeah.
When you play a fighting game, you sit down with another person, you lock yourself in a box with them, and through terrible violence, you have a conversation.
Yeah. and I think it's great because it's like I'm a big sports head. I like sports a lot as well. And I just think that despite the ages old idea of the nerd-jock dichotomy, I actually think one of the most interesting things culturally of late is that that's sort of breaking down. Like the like age old like 80s idea of there's nerds and there's jocks and they're separate people has gotten a lot more porous as time has gone on. And young people today are like, like people who play sports competitively are nerds now. Like, like top level athletes are like looking at, they're looking at analytic spreadsheets. They're in the lab every day, like fighting game players, right? There's still some meathead athletes, but by and large, the modern athlete is a very nerdy person, So, I mean,
you kind of have to be to keep up.
Exactly.
And in some ways, I feel like competitive video games is a place where, like, it's the refuge of jocks now, almost.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that dichotomy sort of broken down, and I think that's and you can see that experience among young people in the characters of Hometown, right? Who I think obviously we've got Jockington, right? Who is the prototypical jock. But is also, he's nice, right? He's nice. Everybody likes him. He's friends with all the nerds. And, you've got the nerds in town are kind of like, Berdly is kind of an elitist snob.
Which, frankly, is kind of always been, like, this is the dark secret. This has kind of always been the undercurrent of the nerd side of the jock-nerd dichotomy. Is like nerds can be fucking assholes.
Yeah, absolutely. There's this episode of 30 Rock where Liz Lemon, who I've been compared to maybe more than once in my life, is actually the great Super Smash Bros. Melee commentator Prague. If you're familiar with him from the Smash Bros. Documentary, he was he and I were very close, and he always used to call me Lemon.
That's so funny.
Yeah. But there's this 30 Rock episode where there's like a Liz is going to her high school reunion and she's telling Jack about I was bullied so hard, and then it actually shows a flashback and she's just being a giant asshole the whole time. She's using her acerbic wit to just bully, to actually be the bully to like the popular kids who are just trying to be nice to her. And I think that's a recontextualization of the nerd experience that's really important to have. That sometimes these nerd tendencies can become antisocial. But Berdly's not entirely antisocial. And so the first point on your outline that you brought to me was really important because it's about the fact that, one of the biggest shut-ins that we know, like Chris, whose connections with the world have fallen off before the start of this game, right? Who is, withdrawn and isolated themselves as a result of whatever trauma they experienced, still has at least one, has the, like, basically the only known regular social activity we have.
It's gaming with Berdly.
Yeah, it's gaming with Berdly.
And that is not a small thing, because as we learned from Chapter 3, like, playing Smash with Azrael was, like, a big part of their childhood.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of the big things they did together. It's the thing that they liked about the TV more than watching TV.
Yeah, and I think that's super interesting, and it's one of the most interesting little threads of these last few, like, of these chapters, because it's one of the only, like, positive lights that we have about Chris's life. I mean, we have in the Noel blogs, right, the Spampton sweepstakes, we had a note that Chris used to, like, Chris at that was, like, prank calling Berdly, but also over the course of those prank calls, like started, like, got him to install Minecraft and was playing it with him.
Yeah, which is so adorable.
It's adorable. And there's some, and Berdly's an incredibly competitive person, right? Who wants to be first, who wants to be best and smartest. And there's a funny sort of, you get Berdly's tragic backstory in chapter 2 that is like, Berdly is motivated to be the best. But but it's interesting because when they're gaming together, Berdly is not the best. Berdly loses.
And it sounds like Berdly might lose a lot.
Yeah.
Which, again, I feel like that's not a small thing when you consider the type of personality he has, that he comes back to get his ass beat over and over again. Like, that's a big deal for, like, a relationship between kids like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of the most positive things about that we've seen about I admire it so much. I admire it so much, being able to get your ass kicked at something and keep showing up and keep going. Like, that's the only way to get better, and it's the only way to grow up, right? Is to do stuff that sucks and get your ass beat and just keep doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, when I was coming up learning fighting games in Northern California, I just, like, randomly ended up befriending probably the best Street Fighter 4 Dudley player in our region. Like, I would go over to his apartment, I would play DJ, arguably the worst character in the game, against Dudley, a pretty good character with an unbelievably, like, horribly lopsided matchup against DJ. We'd play a 1st to 20, I'd win 4 games, and then he would give me weed and show me, like, new video games on his high-end PC. Like, that was how I, like, kept going with fighting games, was just having, like, a nice guy who would kick my ass every weekend.
Yeah, and I went to college with HBox, right? I'm nowhere close to as good of a player as HBox was. So I would go over to his apartment, right? And at that time, that meant, when we were having a Smash Fest, he lived on a second floor. I'm doxing him. I'm saying he lived on a second floor. He lived, yeah, so that's right. I'm doxing Hungrybox. He lived on a second floor apartment.
Yeah, you just have to check every second floor.
Over 10 years ago. But so I would bring my CRT, right? Because you'd have to bring your setup. And so I had to lug a CRT up a flight of stairs every time I'd go over. I'd lug a CRT up. So, and then I'd go just get my ass whooped, like for 4 straight hours, by all the best Smash players in Gainesville, Florida. And it was an awesome experience. Now, here's what I will say, obviously discrimination, it's an important thing to address, right? And there's negativity in every scene. But I was a out trans woman in 2014 in Smash, and you know what? I never had a negative experience from that. But I did experience a ton of really profound discrimination at Smash Brothers tournaments, at Smash Fests, for another immutable characteristic about me, and it's that I played Ice Climbers.
Oh, God.
And people...
People are so mean about Ice Climbers players. People
would see fit to just straight up come up to me, come up behind the setup while I'm playing a tournament match and heckle me for playing Ice Climbers. While I was wobbling, random strangers would be clapping out of time to try to disrupt my rhythm. Wobbling being a fairly easy to execute infinite combo that Ice Climbers have.
It's wild too, because like wobbling takes a while, but there are like comparably long TAC infinites in Marvel vs. Capcom 3 that people never really seemed to get that kind of up in arms about. Like Dante doing, 2 damage at a time to you for like 90 seconds or whatever. People just live with it.
Yeah. And there's an element of, there's that sort of, that in that strain of like, you can't do something lame that gives you an advantage. You do see that from Berdly, right? Like Berdly, Berdly, it thinks it's unfair that Chris knows how to wave dash. So there's that little bit of resentment from Berdly about people who are better at games than he is, and that's where that sort of nasty streak of wanting to be the best comes out, because he thinks it's unfair that anyone could beat him about anything.
Yeah. I mean, especially like it comes through in like the classroom dynamic as well of like, Berdly wants to be number one and wants Noelle to be number two. And Chris is kind of a threat to that because I don't know, like even though Chris is a troubled kid and has kind of potential like dropout energy, it doesn't seem like Chris is not smart. Like it's the same thing with the games of just like Berdly wants to be the best, and here's someone who is presumably like effortlessly clowning on him. Yeah. Or maybe not effortlessly. I think it's actually much more fun if Chris is being sweaty as fuck to destroy Berdly.
Yeah. and so obviously I think that's really something important to understand is like Chris does appear to be genuinely fond of Berdly in some ways. Like there is a genuine mutual fondness there.
Yeah. I mean, otherwise they wouldn't be doing this. Like, Chris seems to have an affinity for like shitheads, kinda.
Yeah.
They're close with Susie. They seem to get along with Queen. Whatever the fuck was going on between them and Des, like.
Yeah, exactly. There's a sort of an affinity for the not just the bad kids, but like people who are kind of difficult in some way.
Yeah, a kinship maybe.
Yes, exactly. Sort of a mutual appreciation for the prankster, the difficult people, and. That's and I think this obviously comes to a point in the regular route chapter 4 phone call scene, where you have the option to when Berdly calls Noelle and it's there's the Susie disrupts the call, throws the phone to the ground, and then Chris can pick up the phone again, and so Susie hurting Noelle just to stop me from going with her. She's gone yandere for me. Oh heavens to yikes! Where's my Dragon Blazers barf bag? But now that I think about it, she must be very lonely. A poor girl with no one to show her exclusive tips and tricks. Hello? Are you still there? Listen, it disgusts me to say this, but as an act of charity, I will let you be the breeze under my wings. You, me, festival. And then if you say, go with Berdly, Chris, I have to say, heh, I am flattered. But if you want my hand, you'll have to fight for it. On the day, so Chris is asking Susie to the festival on that, but then Chris picks up the phone instead, right? I am flattered, but if you want my hand, you'll have to fight for it. On the day of the festival, you, Noelle, Susie, the lover who impresses me the most will be my date. Chris, may the best suitor epic win. Good luck. And then if you sing the wrong number song instead of go with Berdly, Berdly says, Chris, you scoundrel, eavesdropping on my sweet cartilaginous inner thoughts. Go ahead and taunt, Chris. I'm the one Noelle and Susie are falling like dominoes for. And you know what dominoes means, Chris? You're next.
Click.
Click. So there's a very like there's sort of a ranked competitive flirtation going on here.
Yeah. It's so good. It's so good. I love it so much. He's such a little shithead, but like when he pulls stuff like this, I think about the two of them being little shitheads together, and I'm like, I'm sorry, that's cute as hell.
It is kind of adorable. We have to admit that it is kind of adorable. This isn't a show about shipping broadly. However, I will say, Krerdly does meet with my approval. You get my thumbs up, Krerdly shippers.
Yeah, I'm an equal opportunity shipper. I think that Chris is cute with just about anyone.
Yeah, and there's this is a very interesting contrast to the dynamic in the Weird Route, where there's a much more straightforward feeling. We've talked many times before. You can go back to our Weird Root episode. You can go back to our Chris episode. I think it's come up basically a billion times. There's a whole Weird Root tag on the Group Shike website, but in the Weird Root, there's a much, instead of this like sort of fun like Triple Truces-esque like complex web of flirtation, it's like Berdly is the romantic rival, right? And he must be destroyed. And so just like Chris and Noel get flattened into their specific roles, Berdly gets flattened into his specific role in the Weird Root. And he's in the way of this sort of narrative compression that occurs in the Weird Root. So him, being in the hospital, and being sort of taken out of this narrative takes a lot of the fun and joy out of it, right? It's another way that like the colors being drained from these kids, dynamic and sweet relationships with one another in the Weird Root, and also looking ahead to the festival next chapter, right? What is going to be like a fun, zany escapade as presaged by Berdly in the normal route, it can't be in the Weird Root, right? It's going to be, it's going to be something much worse.
Yeah, I mean, we've got many questions to be answering later in the episode. I do want to jump ahead to one of them as it relates to this topic, which is the question, do you think Berdly has a place in the story going forwards outside of just being comic relief? And like, the answer is like, I don't think Berdly is being very much of a comic relief character in the Weird route, more of like a really tragic character who like awful things are happening to. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. It's like the contrast between how absurd he is in the normal route and like how really sad his role in the Weird route is a big part of what I like about the Weird route.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, and so I think that will be I think we can transition to our question. So remember, every once in a while, if you're not already in our Discord, every once in a while we do open our episodes to listener questions. And so for this one, we had a few questions, and so I appreciate everybody who posted in our questions thread here. And let's dive in. Let's see you on the other side of some music and answer our listener questions.
I scared you. I jump scared.
You did. You scared me. You got me. I finished my tea. We're back from our break.
Yeah.
Let's get into some questions. So the first question is, I should have anticipated this would be the first question, is, would estrogen have saved her from Snowgrave? No, it wouldn't. Absolutely not. Estrogen would absolutely just make Berdly worse.
You don't want to... T-Girl Berdly is dark path.
Yes.
Dark ending. Bad ending.
So here's the thing that I want to say. I don't want to discourage people from making trans girl Berdly art and writing because it's super funny.
And some of it's really cute.
Right. To be clear, I'm always in favor of that. But I don't actually think... look at this. I want you to write this down. Kate Shrike is saying a character is not a trans woman. And so I want you to know that that's a pretty rare statement, obviously, from me. But I don't think Berdly's a trans woman. I don't think so. I think Berdly does have... I think people do understand that Berdly, has some gender trouble, right? Berdly, by which I mean, Berdly is like that one Achewood panel, and this is on this week's bonus episode. I also talk about Achewood, so now we're 2 weeks in a row of me talking about Achewood. Great webcomic, you should read it. But it's like that one Achewood panel of a guy riding a truck, and the back of the truck says, "I have weird ideas about what it means to be a man." And that's Berdly, right? Berdly has weird ideas about what it means to be a man, and he's sort of performing masculinity in a really stupid way that isn't to his benefit or to anyone else's benefit.
Yeah, which is like, I see how you could get the trans reading out of that. However, you have to keep in mind almost all men have very weird ideas about masculinity.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I personally don't see it, and not only do I not see it, I do think that even if Berdly were a trans woman, Berdly would be a shithead trans woman, and it would be really funny. So I don't think being trans would make Berdly better. All right. Let's see. Question 2 was why Berdly? I don't know. I just think he's neat.
It was an emergency episode.
Yeah, it was an emergency episode. I thought it would be funny to use Berdly as the character of last resort. I have tried to talk about Berdly multiple times on this podcast, and my guests no-sold me. And so I thought it'd be funny to finally, I think it's fun to do episodes on more marginal characters sometimes. Like I really liked doing our Carol holiday episode. And I just thought there would be a lot of fun stuff to talk about with Berdly, and your questions and our discussion topics have proved that right. You already talked about the question from, so that question was from Local Rules Enjoyer, by the way. Thank you. And then you talked about Urus Multum's question about how plot relevant Berdly will be for the next chapter. You had a specific prediction on that front, though, right?
Yeah, I have my called shot, which, frankly, I don't do that many of, I don't think. I really like to engage with Deltarune as the thing that it is and let the future be the future.
Yeah.
I have my called shot, which is, I think on the normal route, your decision about who to go to the festival with is not going to matter. Susie is going to choose to go with Noelle, and Chris is going to go with Berdly to keep him busy, to keep him from bothering the girls.
Oh god, that's good. That would be so awesome.
I would love it so much. It would be so fucking funny. It would be so fun. And then, of course, on the weird route, you'll be going with Noelle.
Right.
But I think that I would love if your final opportunity to bail out of the weird route is to not go to the festival and to spend the day with Berdly in the hospital. I think that there is a through line of bailouts from the weird route, which is I don't know, you see Chris being sort of sweet and regretful and showing warmth to people, especially in that implied scene between chapter 3 and 4.
Yeah.
It just seems like it would fit. And it would be cute, and so I want it to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's true. I think a lot of people interpreted the end of the chapter 4, climactic weird route scene as being a permanent lock-in, you can't get off the track anymore. But I don't know. I think it's there being another off-ramp would be interesting, or maybe an off-ramp that doesn't cause the game to just snap right back into the normal route, but actually maybe puts us on sort of a changed path, an aborted weird route timeline that actually has differences from the standard game. I could see that happening for sure. And let's see, we got another question here. We got a question from Local Rules Enjoyer again, asked, does Berdly serve a similar thematic function to Papyrus? And that's actually, I think that's a very cogent idea that I hadn't thought about before seeing this question, of being the sort of funny, comic relief character, who, sort of stands in your way on multiple occasions, right? And they're quite similar. And I also think that in the similar way to, actually seriously hurting Berdly being the start of things getting really grim in Deltarune, seriously hurting Papyrus is where shit really gets real, where Sans will never forgive you in Undertale, right? And so I
mean, you can do all kinds of other shit, and Sans will be try better.
Yeah, maybe you had to do it. I don't know. I wasn't there.
If you kill Papyrus, he is not very happy with you at like the judgment scene.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I like that question a lot. And let's see. Saturn asked, does Berdly is gay? And no.
I have my answer on the first page of notes, but I don't think I want to read that.
You don't think you want to do it? Well, okay. I think no, but also, I mean, you know, we've seen the flirtation with Chris, right? And so there's a element of, well, Berdly's not exactly straight either, right? Or, you know, there's this okay, how can I say this in a way? This is a fun topic
that isn't
to talk
awful.
about. Yeah, that isn't awful. Okay, it's like when I came out as trans, but I still like had a bunch of guy friends, and there's that sort of like dance where you're not one of the guys, but you're not like a traditional like romantic target. And I think this applies to like all trans people with a lot of cis friends who are like early in transition, right? And it's like there's that like sort of strange way that you're like trampling over the traditional categories of like friendly or flirtatious relationships that you have, and everything gets thrown into, you know, into a new relief. You kind of accidentally queer every relationship you have.
I mean, especially with the existing just like inherent undercurrent of homoeroticism that seems to exist in every relationship between men, basically.
Yes.
Like it's suddenly it's very different.
Yeah.
Like,
and, you know, and obviously that's coming from a place of, you know, our common interpretation being Chris being trans femme. I think it still works either way. Like, it still works whatever your perception of Chris's gender is that, you know, that relationship between Chris and Berdly is kind of a representation of the way that, like, you know, like, guys with trans friends kind of, you know, are in this, like, sort of blurry and ambiguous place that can lead, you know, that can be a kind of interesting space to be in. And for a lot of young guys in those positions, it's sort of the first time they've actually ever seriously thought about it, right? And so, you know, that was maybe a little more detail than was required for a 4-question shitpost question, but, you know, that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I think that the critical thing about it is that if you asked Berdly, I think that he would say he is not gay. I think that he would think, oh, well, Chris doesn't count.
Yeah, right. And then X-Teen, who you might recall from being a guest on the episode 7 of the podcast, said, please come up with a list of Toho. Let's... Toho. God damn it, I can't cut that now. Please come up with a list of...
You can say it, I believe in you.
No, because I was now thinking about that famous clip of Toby speaking Japanese, but then saying Toho Project.
そしてもちろん、ズンさんの東宝 project とか。
You know, in an American accent right in the middle of a Japanese text.
Yeah.
Please come up with a list of Toho girls Berdly would want to have as a mom, and make 2 copies of it in case Kate accidentally throws it in the trash.
Yakumoran. That's my list.
Can you tell me anything?
No, I can't tell you anything. I don't know shit about Toho.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Because you referenced a Toho girl last time you were on the show.
Yeah, no. I mean, I know about Mika because everyone... Like, the character came out I don't know if she came out. I haven't played Toho, but in... Not the most recent at this point. This is actually a few years back. But this character existed, and everyone's like, Jackie, look at this character. Jackie, look at this character. This is you. Look at this character. It's you.
Yeah,
and I was like...
That character does look like you. That's true.
It does look like me, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so we don't know.
All I know is that anyone that I know who wants a Toho girl to be their mom says Yakumoran. So...
Okay, let me take a look. Let me look this up. Yakumo-ran. Okay. There's a lot of stuff. I don't know a damn thing about Toho, you guys. I'm so sorry. She's the only stage mid-boss in any Toho project game that's immune to bombs. So that's
Yeah,
that's good. That's good. That's probably
that's
a great. I think that's a good.
right?
That's a good.
I would want my mom to be immune to violence.
Right. That's great. I think that's a nice quality to have in a mom. Hey, what's going on with Berdly's parents, by the way? Um, you know, we saw.
Yeah.
We saw Berdly's mom, probably a character that everyone assumes is Berdly's mom, in the 10th anniversary stream, right? We saw a teacher, the teacher of the class, with the blue bird with a pearl necklace, who looks like Berdly a little bit, and everyone just sort of has assumed that Berdly's mom, that was Berdly's mom. So we got a glimpse of a Berdly parent, right? But we've never seen Berdly's parents in the game, and Berdly doesn't go to church. He doesn't go to the church with everybody else. He's working at the library at the time. And so we don't really have any insight into Berdly's home life other than sort of this yawning gulf of wanting people to be proud of him.
Yeah. Which makes you wonder, is Berdly's parents not very proud of him? Do they hold him to a very high standard, maybe? Like, is that how he gets like this? Because there are a lot of kids who have that kind of relationship with their parents, and that's how they become this kind of shithead.
Yeah. So I could definitely see that. I think that's an interesting thought. All right, let's see here. Every character, so Zado asked, or Zidu asked, every character with no direct Undertale counterpart, the holidays, Ralsei, Sans, that's funny, etc., seems extremely important to Deltarune, except IMO Berdly. How do we think that he fits into all of this, if at all?
My answer is, I just think that people assume he's less important than he is because his character is so inherently goofy. He seems like a very important character to the narrative to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that, especially if you don't like him, it's really easy to write him off as just like not mattering. But he is of like central principal concern to one of the most interesting narrative elements of Deltarune, which is the weird route.
Yeah.
And even outside of that, like, I don't know, like, the existence of Berdly puts such a different spin on Chris's, like, seeming extended period of social isolation. Of, like, everyone else is getting shut out, but this little shithead is still in their life.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super interesting that like, Berdly is the one person that Chris hasn't pushed away.
If anything, it's like Berdly would be the one pushing Chris away with his extremely off-putting personality. But Chris, I mean, the impression I get is that Chris thinks this is really funny.
Yes, absolutely. And that's good. It's good to see at least one source of joy left in Chris's life, because it really does. It's bleak out there, folks. All right, let's see here. In Control Z, very specific, but considering there's been references to it in the podcast, in Triple Trucy's theory, and I'm going to put a pin in this and say, that's the theory that the Triple Trucy's, the sort of comedic, like, betrayal and alignment in Chapter 2 that you see between Queen and all the other characters is a sort of a metaphor for what's going on with the Knight, right? With Chris working behind our back with the Knight and having these, various myriad allegiances. Do you think that Berdly could possibly be a stand-in for the player? Who do you think Berdly represents for Triple Trucy's? I think that's very interesting. And I see
what they're saying, yeah.
Yeah, and I do think that's true, because Berdly's the one who understands the least out of all of this, right? Berdly does not know about the Triple Trucy situation, right? Berdly's like one layer of abstraction below, only knowing about the Double Trucies. And so, that element of information being concealed from Berdly about, like, who's working with who is very similar to the way that the player doesn't know immediately that Chris has a past and is working with the Knight, right? And so, yeah, I think that's very perceptive.
Yeah, I mean, this is also one of the beautiful things about doing literary interpretation. Like, of course he could possibly be a stand-in for the player, where this is what reading is, Yeah,
no, I mean, I think that's a great point, and I hadn't really thought about the specific figures being, what specific stand-ins they were in. Yeah, I liked it a lot. I like that idea a lot. All right, and let's see. We're going now to some more Krerdly talk with our next question from Stage Lights. What do you think Chris's real feelings on Berdly are? They seem to lose their mind, and the player tells Ralsei that they're bringing Berdly to the festival, but yet seems to play along with the option to tell Berdly they'll go to the festival with him. Does Chris like Berdly? Do they dislike him? Do they think there's nothing wrong with him? He's just annoying like Queen does? Do they have romantic feelings for Berdly? Are they willing to play along because you think it's funny?
One thing about this is that this is another area where interpretation is coming to the forefront here, because a lot of people interpret the way Chris acts if you select Berdly in that dialogue as like incredulity, like sort of like Berdly?
Yeah.
But what is it specifically that's stated? It's that they say Berdly once, and then Ralsei starts talking, and they say it again louder. And it's like, is that incredulity or is that insistence?
Yeah.
It could be either way.
Yeah. And I think the answer, does Chris like Berdly? Do they dislike him? Is yes. But yes.
I think yes to both.
Yes to both, right. And then there's another question. It sort of tracks over the same territory. We were talking about Berdly being important to the weird root, so I'll skip that. Gleaming Moonlight asked, what's the significance of Berdly and Susie both using axe weapons? Do you think Berdly might join the party at any point? Never thought about that before.
I have thought quite a lot about that, and I think that probably the answer is yes. I don't know that necessarily Berdly is going to be like a permanent party member for the rest of the game, partly because managing a very large number of characters in combat seems like a little more than what this game usually wants to have going on at a time. But I think that it seems really likely to me that at least as a temporary party member, he's going to be around at some point.
Yeah, I try not to make too many predictions about who's going to be in the party or not, because Caddy with an I and Jockington being temporary party members seemed like a slam dunk prior to Chapter 3 and 4, and then didn't happen. It's I try to stay out of the predicting business. It is interesting that Berdly and Susie both do use the axe, and the axe also being part of Gerson's symbolism, right? I don't know. There's something there.
It makes you think about Gerson putting that test up for Berdly, and Berdly having his scrub rage about it.
Yeah.
Like, this is so unfair.
And that was why is he blue like Chris and Rules?
You can't just ask someone why they're blue.
You can't. I don't know. I think it's just another example from as like our Rules episode of Rules being tied to everything, and secretly being very important. And Rules is actually kind of a Berdly-like figure, by which I mean he's sort of this feudal romantic, this futile romantic loser in a little bit of a,
Sorry, thinking about like Berdly as a feudal warlord now.
Yeah, he's playing Grand Strategy 4.
Berdly, new Prince from the Dark.
Yeah.
Other question from Karu. Sure, why not? That would be really funny.
Let's see. Triumph asks.
I'll give a sure answer to basically anything that I think would be really funny.
Yeah. 2 questions. Triumph asks, 1, a character bearing a very strong resemblance to Berdly was seen as a teacher during the Hotland High segment of the NHL 10th anniversary stream. Considering that no one's been in the exact same job on either side of the UTDR divide, and the cast already has 2 teachers spoken for, what do you think this character does for a living in Deltarune, if we in fact see them at all? Again, that goes back to our question to Berdly's parents being a mystery. We don't know. And Berdly works at the library, so maybe Berdly's mom is in charge of the library district. Maybe Berdly's mom actually runs the library. Maybe. I mean,
the fact that she hasn't been around makes me wonder if she works in the city or something.
Yeah.
Which that kind of separation from a parent also plays a lot into, a kid having kind of a shithead attitude about some of these things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope you're enjoying Pomeroy if you're listening to our podcast.
Pom, my beloved.
Valerie is just getting him up. Pom had a late night last night, and he's supposed to get a lot. Cockatiels are supposed to get a lot of sleep, so he was sleeping in this morning. But now he's extremely excited about waking up. Does the Christmas song Winter Wonderland hold any possible spoilers for the Weird Root? Triumph also asks. Of particular note are the lyrics, "Gone away is the bluebird, here to stay is a new bird. He sings a love song as we go along, walking in a winter wonderland." I think this is another example of you being sure.
I stare at this and go like, that seems completely plausible with how weird this game is about the holiday of Christmas. I could not fucking begin to tell you what that could possibly mean. But sure, sounds awesome.
Yeah. Let's see. What's up with the eggs we collect showing up on Berdly's desk?
He laid them.
Yeah, so if you go and visit if you go and talk to and like check the eggs on Berdly's desk, with Susie in your party, Susie says, "Hey, what's with the egg at Berdly's desk? Never mind, I don't want to think about it." Hey, is that that's a funny. That's funny. I don't know, dude.
There, no matter what is going on with it, the thought is disquieting.
Yeah, I don't like to think about it.
Did he bring an egg to school to eat? I don't like that.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be eating seeds.
Here's an actual fact about birds. I'm a big birder. But basically, no species of bird will turn down an egg if offered. A scrambled egg with no salt, avoid the salt and the butter, is a great nutritious snack for your parrot. All right. I'm not Quantum Shade asks, I'm not totally sure how to ask this, but I think there's something to be discussed with regards to how Noelle and Berdly are placed in relation to Queen in Chapter 2. Do you think it's a gendered thing? Is it telling us something about their wider roles as characters, or is it just Queen being Queen? I mean, so there's something
referring to the overwhelming adoration for Noelle and the broad dismissal of Berdly, even if, as mentioned before, what is it? She says there's nothing wrong with him, he's just annoying.
Yeah, and, there's also an element of, there's that universal parent theory where Queen is sort of a stand-in for everybody's moms, right?
Ooh.
And so, Queen sort of doting on being overprotective and controlling of Noelle, but completely sort of dismissing and ignoring Berdly could be a hint about the parental relationships that Berdly has, right?
Yeah. Oh my god. If that's like exactly how his mom is in real life, like she's always pointing to Noelle as like the perfect example of the model student and being like, why aren't you like her? Oh, that's juicy.
Yeah, absolutely. And what else have we got? Let's see. You already answered that one. Serena asked, "How funny do y'all think Berdly is?" Because I feel like
hilarious.
He is like maybe one of the funniest characters in a cast full of really funny characters. Absolutely, fucking hilarious.
Yeah,
yes.
That like, just I can't think of a scene that he's in the normal route where I'm not like grinning like a little shithead. He's so funny.
He's mega funny. He's so funny. It's really enjoyable to read his dialogue. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this episode is just because he's fun to think about. I think he's funny. Serena also asked, does he main Falco or does he main someone else? And I think we talked about this at the top. I think he's a Falco player and a bad one and would be better served by playing a floaty instead.
I'm of like two minds about it because there's two types of scrub that he could be. One is he picks the flashy high tier character and doesn't know fucking his ass from his head. And the other one is he's the type of player who thinks that it really requires a superior intellect and greater skill to win with dog shit. And he picks a low tier and then is mad that Chris does the sensible thing, which is play Fox and destroy him.
Yeah.
Both seem plausible to me.
Absolutely. And I think that gets to all of our questions. Hey, this was pretty fun for an emergency episode. We got we had to sort of throw together here. Obviously, if I got any facts wrong, YouTube commentators, you have to forgive me because we were running on short notice for this one.
If anything was incorrect, we did it on purpose for engagement.
That's right, exactly. Actually, wait, that's so smart. I'm so bad at this whole clickbait game. I should be getting basic facts wrong on purpose so people put YouTube comments on the episodes.
Exactly.
All right. Well, we've already established.
You could just edit the audio through the whole episode of us like pronouncing Berdly wrong or something.
I did. So I actually last episode, the In Stars and Time episode, I actually fucked up a quote that I was like I misremembered, and I recorded an insert to like to like read the quote properly. And nobody said anything, even though the insert was the most obviously like mismatched sound I think I've ever put in a podcast. So I guess I have to be worse if I want people to notice.
Yeah. You gotta edit in the audio of Toby saying Toho Project earlier also, like, perfect.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I'll definitely put that in when I'm editing my initial mispronunciation of Toho. All right. That's
anything else?
I think that's it. I think that's it for Berdly. Who we will now encase in a shard of ice and leave until the next chapter comes out.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. I'll see you in the outro. Thanks for coming on, Jackie.
Happy as always.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, thanks for listening, everybody. You can listen on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, in your own podcast app with the RSS link in the description. Join the Discord, or for $5 a month, support the show with Green Room and get exclusive episodes. See you in 2 weeks.
Strike Amalgamated General Productions GmbH.